Welcome to the Blacklight Speaker Series, everyone. We will be getting started in 5 short minutes. Welcome to the Blacklight Speaker Series. We will be starting in 2 short minutes.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining the Loyola University Chicago Black Alumni Board Blacklight Speaker Series. I'm going to go ahead and get started with today's presentation. The purpose of this session is to bring the community together to illuminate Black Loyola University Chicago alumni through the LUC BAB Blacklight Speaker Series. I'll be your moderator for this evening. My name is Rochelle Felix Blackman, but everyone calls me Rocky. I support the member relations team here within the LUC Black Alumni Board. I am a professional services business operations leader with Amazon Web Services, just for a little context of what I do outside of the board work. I graduated from Loyola University Chicago with my bachelor's in science and biology from the College of Arts and Science and a minor in Black World Studies. I'm based right here in Chicago and I live with my husband and son. So for today's agenda, we have an action-packed agenda. I am super excited to get started. I'm going to introduce you to our board. a little bit more about the Black Alumni's Blacklight Speaker Series, and then I'll get started with my interview. Action packed. I'm so excited. I keep saying that, but I'm super excited. And then we'll have Q&A for all of you. You can go ahead inside of the app here, the Zoom app. There is a place here for questions that you could submit, and at the end, we'll answer all of your questions. And then we'll close out with some remarks that will help you all out for future events and getting involved with the Black Alumni Board. So just to introduce you to the LUC Black Alumni Board, we have Karen Fleshman, who is our president, Jay Yancey, who is our treasurer, Shakira, who's wearing two hats. Shakira Richards is our vice president of student relations and member relations. We have our VP of communications, Genesis Emery. Myself, I am a member relations manager. And then we have Dawn, who is our social media manager. Now, the Blacklight Speaker Series is pretty cool. It's something that's been was concepted several years ago, and we've been going strong for several years. And the series name is derived from the special purpose of a black light. I think all of you have seen black lights and black light posters. The purpose of the black light is to illuminate things that are hidden, right? So the goal of the series is to illuminate Black alumni and how they've carried Loyola's mission and principles into their communities, work, professional lives, and their causes. Pretty cool, right? Today, the series will illuminate Taryn Randle. She's a Loyola University Chicago alum, and guess what? She's a farmer. She's a learner, teacher, and connector. She was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. Taryn is committed to connecting Black and Brown people with the land, each other, and practices that train present and future generations to survive the unexpected. Now, I'm not going to get into politics here, but I think this is more poignant now than ever. Taryn began growing the land in 2017 by co-founding Getting Grown Collective, GGC, with family, friends, and neighbors on 63rd and Morgan in Chicago's Inglewood neighborhood. Currently, Randall is a backyard garden senior coordinator for both Little Village Environmental Justice Organization and Grow Greater Inglewood, as well as, co-owner of Earthseed Native Landscaping and Edible Gardens. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with some wonderful questions. Taryn, if you could go ahead and prepare and get unmuted for everyone. I think the first one is the one we're all wanting to understand because being a farmer here in the middle of the city, we want to know how this came about. So can you tell us more about your upbringing on the south side of Chicago and how that shaped your connection to the land and the community?
True. Thank y'all for having me. Thank you for Karen, and thank you, Karen, for the connect. I grew up on the south side, not really doing a lot of farming and agriculture, to be honest. My mother and my mama's mamas, I think they were all really into flowers, from an aesthetic standpoint, and just like displaying care for their community and having some like uniform and that on 63rd and Morgan, actually, that's the block that my mother grew up on. But we weren't growing food, but we were very, very embedded in community, very village oriented upbringing. Um, I grew up in the church in Inglewood. That's on 64th and Sangamon, so right next to where we're growing food now. The church isn't in operation anymore, but it was really fundamental in exposing me to uh Blackness and community taking care of self. So there was a lot of food movement. The pastor of the church, Pastor Porter, was responsible for King coming to Chicago in '68. So it was like
Oh, wow.
those really empowered churches. But being in village and community also really, really taught me accountability because I couldn't go anywhere without seeing somebody that like not that I just knew for a little while. I knew him longer than my life, so it was I couldn't get away with much.
Yeah, it reminds me. I was going to ask you if it was one of those type of upbringings where you didn't cut up because Miss Jones down the street was going to tell your mother that she saw you doing something wrong. So sounds like it.
More like Miss Jones will make me stop, like
Even better.
no, my
Yeah,
mom, it was like, what are you doing?
yeah, even better.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for that background. What inspired you to start growing with the land, and how did your journey into farming begin in 2017?
Um, yeah, it kind of starts a little before I got to 2017. After I graduated from Loyola in 2011, and because of that very deep rooted community vibe in Chicago, I was like, I have to go somewhere else. And so I went to LA and got really involved with a lot of different things. But I got introduced to organizing through the cycling world. And that's how I first started to be intentional about building community as an adult. But through work, I ended up actually working in the cannabis world. So I worked in dispensaries and ended up on farms and off grid in the mountains for, months at a time. And I was like, wow, okay, so it's cold. It's cold in Northern California in October and November in December. And I had to learn how to chop wood and how to start fires, and was in situations where we were literally eating the food that was being grown on the property while also taking care of the crop that we were cultivating. And so I got really inspired to how that translated to home. Was perpetually thinking about Chicago, and so I would talk to my father a lot. I was a cyclist and delivered food when I was in LA, so I would just be riding around and talking to my dad, and he was like, "Well, He is one of the uncles on the block on 63rd and Morgan. He's like, he got a lot, let's try it." And so I
Mm,
came to Chicago in April of 2017 just to try. I was still based in LA. And it evolved into what it is now. But yeah, it started from that musing of like, okay, I'm witnessing people that are able to survive,
mm-hmm.
not be plugged in. Um, and it's cold, and I just couldn't stop thinking about what would happen in Chicago if the power went out. And it's cold like it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the course of action if there's no electricity? And so, I'm like, we don't know how to chop no wood. We don't know how to start fires. What are we doing? So
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
got me there.
Well, yeah, I certainly don't know how to start a fire, not without any lighter fluid. Um, how did co-founding of Getting Grown Collective come about? And what role did your family, friends, and neighbors play in making it a reality?
Um, well, so Getting Grown actually is inspired by a CeeLo song where he's talking about like really just different levels of growing up. And at the time, like I said, I came home in April 2017 to try growing food just with my parents because there was an opportunity to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until we got so April 2017, May 2017, both of my grandmothers passed away. My mother's mother
Mm,
and my father's mother, a day apart from
mm.
each other.
Wow.
And so this was a month into us planting the first things. And so one of the grandmothers was in Chicago, the other was in LA. So we were gone for a while. We didn't have a whole lot of community investment in the garden. And we came back in June, and there
Mm-hmm.
was stuff to harvest. And we were like, whoa, okay,
Wow.
what do we do? And so we started having to ask people because we had never like grown food, and even like we didn't know how to harvest collard greens. We are like, we don't know what to do. And I think that first kind of affirmation from the grandmamas making it rain really propelled and inspired not just me, but my parents, our friends that were able to witness it. And then we got serious, and we ended
Mhm.
up incorporating. We have some attorneys in the village, and they're like, let's be real about it. And yeah, that's kind of
That's sweet.
that's how it evolved.
That's cool. What can you? It's not a question on my list, but can you remember the first dish you made with your first harvest?
First dish.
Mhm.
I want to say my dad is the green cooker
Mhm.
family, and at that time I was based in LA still, so I was staying at my parents' house. So a pot of greens.
A
Yep,
pot of greens.
yep.
Yes. All right. All right. Well, can you share more about your role as a senior coordinator at, you're gonna have to tell me how to say this, but Lavejo, is that right?
Yeah, like that. The way how it goes,
I love,
people say, yep.
yep, and getting grown. What are the primary roles of these organizations and how do you contribute to them?
Yeah. So Avejo is the Little Village Environmental Justice Organization, and GGE is Grow Greater Inglewood. These are two community-based organizations in different
Mm,
neighborhoods. One in Little Village, which is primarily servicing um the immigrant community, mostly Mexican, and then there's Inglewood that is mostly serving Black folks with more recent influx of brown folks, which has been so beautiful. And so what I'm leading the backyard garden program in both of these organizations. They both have similar missions, different campaigns. I don't want to jump into either
mm-hmm,
organization in depth, because they both are basically working to empower community, and have community be able to self-determine what that empowerment looks like, with different campaigns, different ideologies. I just am in the middle, and have been actually through my involvement with Getting Grown Collective. So the organization that I started with my family was a way for me to kind of learn the landscape of land work, if you will. Um,
mm-hmm,
and so I had done collaborations with both organizations before I became a member of their teams. But S- Avejo, I first started off with Farm Food Familias, which was a mutual aid program that started at the height of the pandemic. So May 2020, we started distributing meals. And I was doing so through Getting Grown Collective and utilizing that space as executive director. I had some autonomy to, like, okay,
mm-hmm.
we have 7K people are saying they need food. Like, that program that we got this money for, scrap that. Let's move the food.
That's mm-hmm.
And then Avejo, along with several other organizations and community, jumped in right away, and that 7K turned into 100K. And
Wow.
so we went from 50 meals a week to 350 meals a week, 2020 through 20. Well, we're still delivering meals now, not 350. But that's how Avejo was witnessing, and they're like, you cannot be doing this as a volunteer. And GGE was also like, let's figure out, we have this backyard garden program that we want to start, but we need someone to start it. And so the organizations came together to create a position for me that allowed me to do both, while
Mm-hmm.
still kind of uplifting the work of Getting Grown Collective, because it's infused in there. Um, and yeah, so that's my main contribution, is just making those backyard garden programs go. So Avejo has
Mm-hmm.
Farm Food Familias, mutual aid, and then they also started a backyard garden program. So GGE's backyard garden program services 100 sites in Inglewood, and Avejo's backyard garden services 20. And we
Oh,
both programs have had levels of internships and apprenticeships. The impact has been amazing. But yeah, I just been trying to get the infrastructure, like
yeah.
stemming from the same thought I was having in California, like, what do we do, and the
Mm-hmm.
funding for the backyard garden program for Grow Greater Inglewood was actually in response to the George Floyd uprisings, and there was grant monies that came into the organization to build infrastructure, and they just needed
Mhm.
somebody to do it.
Mhm.
And so I came and got a team, and we've been going pretty hard.
Right. I can see the pride in your face. It's making me smile. I'm going to pull on a thread of something you said. It's not one of my questions again. I always like to deviate, but you said something to the effect of how there have been new communities moving into into Inglewood. So and we've had I don't know if what we call displaced or immigrants into Chicago from our Latin American countries. um, and right now we're facing something that we haven't seen in quite some time, and this threat to diversity, equity, and inclusion across everything. Um, what I want to do is ask you what impact, as we think about diversity, what impact has the new communities coming into Inglewood have on your perspective of growing food and how you service the community, or have they been able to teach you new things or new perspectives, things to focus on that you probably wouldn't have had if they didn't come into the community? Are there any new things or new perspectives or something you learned or been able to expand on because of them?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a my back, I've spent a lot of time and a lot of focus on Black and Brown solidarity. And so, even being in at Avejo, I spend a lot of time out of Inglewood and in Little Village and in community with a lot of brown folks. And so I think, yeah, absolutely, I've learned a tremendous amount, and I am inspired to curate spaces that connect us. I think that there's so much power. We are the global majority, and I think
Mm-hmm.
if we are able to go beyond like uh just decisions from scarcity thinking, I believe we will be all right. So that I hope that answers like what you
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think so. I love that you said that, trying to shift people from a scarcity mindset and coming together and understanding the power of being better together than separate. That's beautiful. And I think there's a there, how we communicate that message. Um, we'll work on it to, everybody will work on it from their own spaces, I'm sure. But I love that you said that. I'm going to move on to the next question here. So you're also the co-owner of Earthseed Native Landscaping and Edible Gardens. How does this work intersect with your community-centered projects, and what's unique about your approach to landscaping?
Yeah, so Earth Seed actually is connected to Grow Greater Inglewood. Um so Grow Greater Inglewood, the funding that they got to start the backyard garden program in response to the George Floyd uprisings, a part of the narrative with that funding was that there would be a pathway, that there would be engagement with young folks, and then a pathway for continued learning of landscaping, of agriculture, of food growing. And so really was just in the right place at the right time,
Mm,
to be able to take that. All I needed to hear was that narrative, and
mhm,
identified other folks that were doing the same work. They were just doing it by themselves. Everybody was struggling to have a team. And
mm,
so we were like, let's take advantage of this opportunity, come together, incorporate as a limited worker cooperative association, which is something that's very specific to Illinois as a form of incorporation that legitimizes cooperatives or worker-owned cooperatives. Even
mm,
in California and New York, where that's where most of the co-ops are. They still have to incorporate as LLCs, but in Illinois, as of 2019, so Earthseed is one of a few. I have to go in person to incorporate and
mm,
explain to the city like this is what it is. But just wanted to uplift that that co-op spirit. But yeah, so we're connected to GGE from that regard. We started in 2022. That incubation came with some startup funds and a shared vehicle, a work
Mm-hmm.
vehicle that I used for the backyard garden program in Grow Greater Inglewood was able to be shared with Earthseed, and my being an employee with Grow Greater Inglewood made it make sense from an insurance perspective. So
Mm.
it's been a very beneficial relationship. And I think most cooperatives, worker-owned co-ops deal with the kind of balance of like, are we a nonprofit or are we for profit? Because there's such a commitment for the people that get involved to build community. And so we're very focused on community, but also really building out a collective democratic process. So we're slowing down now after being in operations for 3 years, and focusing on getting people to change it up. We don't do any
Mm-hmm.
grass service. We are taking the grass out, and
Mm.
replacing it with native plants or edible crops. So that's Earthseed, and I think our community efforts, we're trying to work out how we can facilitate some more workshops, but we're
Mm-hmm.
now at the point where we're like, okay, we just shared our website. We've been really
Mm-hmm.
working with clients that are all community folks that we know. So we've had a
Mm-hmm.
community rate. So we're not really making a whole lot of money, but figuring out what that system looks like beyond the nonprofit dependency to develop infrastructure or self-sustaining infrastructure.
I learned something new today about the co-ops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
LWCA, Limited Worker Cooperative Association.
Wow. Okay. And then are you only in Inglewood, or are you in other communities as well, or neighborhoods as well?
Earthseed is everywhere.
Everywhere. Awesome.
Earthseed will go. Um, we have a couple of clients up in Rogers Park.
Mm, nice. I think I need to become a client. 'Cause I have a big
Earthseedchicago.com.
yeah, I am going to check it out
Chicago.com.
as soon as I get off. All right. You've spoken about the importance of connecting Black and Brown people to the land, which we just talked about. Can you elaborate on why this connection is so vital for today's generation and future generations?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like I said, us being the global majority, we will heavily rely on self-organized systems of care, and I think that um, working on building what those systems look like with young people is so important. And so I think that is the work. So like Earthseed, Grow Greater Inglewood, Elvejo, all of these spaces that I'm working with is that's the steady advocacy, is like, how are we getting young people involved? How are we being intentional um about them learning how the decisions are made and making them collectively, and kind of building a different system that's different than hierarchy, and so that it can sustain. So yeah, that's I'm really like, our children are gonna really depend on, well, I guess more like our grandchildren are gonna depend on our children to teach them a bit of humanity, you know?
Mm,
And so I think that, like, working with the land, it teaches you to care, teaches you to care about the pollinators, teaches you to care
mm-hmm,
about how things are changing, to pay
mm-hmm,
attention. And I think that that's really what we'll need, especially with the like looming takeover of AI. I think
mm-hmm.
there's gonna be we're gonna need them to know how to be human.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's well said. What role do you think the youth play in the future of agriculture and environmental justice? And how are you working to engage them in this movement?
Yeah, it's just really trying to make sure to curate spaces that are paid. opportunities for
Hmm.
young people to engage. I hear, the experience that you get from doing free internships, but
Hmm.
the communities that we're working in, I think it's important to prioritize how to really make it make sense, you
Hmm.
know. And I think that there is a lot of money that is moving around, and let's get it to these young people, and encourage them to care about where their food is coming from,
Hmm.
impact of their individual decisions, um, and just like what that means for 7 generations from now. I
Hmm.
think that's, um, you know, it it's important that they're thinking about that and not just right now, and the
Hmm.
immediate gratifications that we've become accustomed to.
Fair enough. Side question here. And you may not know the answer because it may be too early to tell, but with this new administration, how has that impacted the work that you're doing or the funding that's coming in for the work that you're doing? And um, is there, what I mean, is there any concern or have you seen any impact already?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's environmental work, and
Mm-hmm.
we're environmental work on the small of the grassroots,
Mm-hmm.
not totally grassroots, not a whole lot of
Mm-hmm.
federal funding though for the organization that
Mm.
I'm working
Okay.
with. So the impact is there mostly because it's impacting those sub funders that
Got it.
we've come to rely on, where we could be political, we could be honest and loud, even, right, about our blackness, about our brownness, about our and the justice around the
Mm-hmm.
environment. So all of that is, we had um we had an engagement, and it's back and forth through Grow Great Inglewood. We had a team that was going to be going to Guyana, which has been put on pause. That's not affecting, fortunately, our individual work, but it is affecting USAID, who we got
Mm-hmm.
the grant through,
Mm-hmm.
folks that are working there and folks that are working at EPA. So yeah, we're concerned, and
Mm-hmm.
look, I'm applying for jobs, like,
Yeah.
to make sure that there, if anything were to happen, and I,
Mm-hmm.
have some backups. But that's also incentive for me with Earthseed, and developing a cooperative business that can sustain outside of
Mm.
those nonprofit dependencies on grants and funders.
Yeah. Because I know I heard, subsidies were stopped for rural farmers, right? There were some subsidies and then some credits and things like that where, they were sort of sharing in the cost of, growing food for the people in America, and they cut that off. So I don't understand. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one. I'm gonna pause on that one, but I just wanted to understand what the impact would be to a smaller farmer and in the urban and, like you said, one that is vocal about its blackness and brownness. I'm curious about like what the impact might be or if there's any threat to you being able to continue the work. So, but thank you for going down that rabbit hole with me. But, all right. I'm going to go to the next question. So you describe yourself as a learner, teacher, and connector. I like that. How do those roles shape your approach to farming and community work?
Um, I so I know we had talked about some questions, and I actually, like, didn't talk much about my education at Loyola, because I did not study agriculture. I studied journalism. We share a minor in Black World Studies. Like,
Mm,
I was not thinking of the land. I did not imagine myself that I would be in my ninth growing season, which is
mm,
what I'm stepping into now. But most of my learning was done as a teacher. I did not know what I was doing. I was
mm-hmm,
utilizing Google and asking folks and looking at YouTube. A lot of the lessons that I learned, a lot of the important lessons that I learned in agriculture came from, I would say, just people who I've never seen since I learned those lessons. Just people that were
Mm,
on the street. We're out. It's a lot of southern roots in Chicago, so people would come up and see us doing stuff, and they're from Mississippi, and they would like drop Jim, 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 and then I'm like, okay, cool. Now I know
mhm,
this. And it's that's how I've learned this trade. So I use that, and well, actually my first job. So when we started getting Grown Collective, I was back and forth between, like, I would come here and then I would go back to California and work, and I would come back to Chicago, tap in a little bit, and go back. But I started working with an organization called Gardeneers that has school gardens. I want to say it's 26 school gardens that they have, and so I
wow.
became a garden educator, and I didn't know anything. It was my first season. And so it would honestly be like children asking questions. And I would be like, you know what? I have no idea. Let's look it up together. Let's figure it out. And that's how I learned the most in
Mhm.
my first 2 or 3 seasons. Um, yeah.
Yeah, building the plane as you flew it. I love it.
Yeah.
um, you know what? I have conversations with people who are young people all the time who are considering whether they should go to a 4-year university, go to certificate route, or not go to school at all.
Yeah.
And I talk about the value prop of going to a 4-year university because the fundamentals that you get from a 4-year university set you up for success in this role, even though you didn't specifically go to school to study agriculture. Um, that ability to grind, research, turn around results, deliver results, dig deep, all those things comes from that the fundamentals, the type of education we receive at Loyola University Chicago. And for me, I think that's important because in life, as you've noticed already, you were went to school for journalism, Black world studies, and you pivoted without even realizing that that was going to happen in your life. You pivoted, and having that base allows you to pivot. I was biology pre-med, and now I work in tech. Like that's a heck of a pivot, right? But I would not have been able to do that without attending a 4-year university like Loyola. But I wanted to hear, your answer, like how you got into this approach and everything like that, because I knew it was going to lend itself to say somehow your foundation set you up for success in the role that you're doing today. So I'd love to hear that. I love that answer that you gave. What has been one of the most rewarding moments or experiences in farming and community work so far?
Um, I have like a few. Um, the first I kind of mentioned, the first month into growing and receiving that, what I really, really feel was affirmation from my grandmothers by making, like, they just took care of the garden for us. That felt very rewarding and memorable. Um, and the mutual aid work that we've done has been, more than rewarding. Just made me feel like I've living on purpose. Like I found,
Mm,
uh yeah, found it. We delivered over 50,000 meals, 10,000 grocery boxes, and that was like community,
that's amazing.
and that's something that we know. Like, I know we gonna be all right, Like, I think that's the like the career reward. But then I know y'all can hear my background, but I have a little one who is about to be 4,
Mm,
who can see a little seedling and know, like, to
mm,
go grab some water to put on it.
mm,
Is familiar with the land and loves the trees, and um that feels, so those three things combined just feel like yeah, they make me move when I'm not feeling like it.
mm-hmm. That's awesome. That does sound inspiring. especially all of those meals. You said 50,000 meals? My word, that's a lot. All right. So this one is always a big question, and I want you to take a moment to think about this one. This is our moment to, give some messaging out to the world because you have a captive audience right now. What are some suggestions that you have for the Loyola University faculty and staff on how they can better support its diverse population and supporting the development of these creative career paths?
First suggestion, I think that they can demand that the university commits to DEI programs. I feel like that is like that would that's number one. Um, Especially considering what I didn't know what you had shared before we started talking about institutions not being touchable. So it's like put your foot down, like put your
Mm-hmm.
voice out there. Let us know where you stand institutionally. Um, and then I think as far as like developing creative career paths, I would first listen to students that share interests in creative career paths, alternative ways of getting their education. There's so much rich creativity in the city of Chicago that can really um nurture that creativity. And so I think if there's ways to strategize on how funds could be leveraged to support entities, those community-based spaces, to have ongoing relationships, to be able to catch a young person that might be going through, that's like, this actually, it might not be like the full path for me, but there, I just really think that there's more ways that collaboration and considering how like resources can be moved in support. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's
I think that's excellent. That is definitely excellent. And you're right. There are so many different career paths that are not, what we thought when we were going to school, right? And I'm even before you, right? Career path that we would have never considered. And the all universities across the nation, across the world need to kind of catch up and understand that there's so many ways to make money and so many niches that can be explored. And like you said, it not only enriches the individual going to school, but the people around them, because then they get exposed to all these different ways of thinking and learning and developing careers. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. Find a way to fund these, listen to what's going on out in the world, see where the demand is coming from, listen to their students, and then find a way to apply those funds appropriately. But thank you for that answer. That was really good. So I think that was my last question for you. So I'm going to pivot over to questions and answers. I mean, questions from out in the field. I don't see any, but let's see. Let me look in the chat. Uh, uh, does anyone have any questions? Feel free to go ahead and type it either in the chat or there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and a chat button also at the bottom of your screen. All right, we have a question. Have you been involved with Windy City Harvest?
no, not directly. We've done I shared that I've worked with young people a lot, so we've done a lot of field trips to Windy City Harvest, to some of their sites. The farm on Ogden for sure for aquaponics share out. But I've never done any direct. I know they have a really sought after farm program that a few of the homies have gone through. But no, I don't work with Windy City Harvest.
Okay. I have another question for you. Can you elaborate on your backyard program, your Earth Seed program? Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So there's it, there's the backyard garden programs
Mm-hmm.
that are facilitated with the nonprofits. So
Mm-hmm.
uh one service is Little Village and one service is Inglewood. Those nonprofit programs don't charge residents for edible garden installation and maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
But then Earthseed is a cooperative business that offers edible garden installation and maintenance, and also native garden installation and maintenance.
That's awesome. And then for the cooperative, what did you say that website was again?
EarthseedChicago.com.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions out there? Um, what would you do if you weren't doing this type of work?
I don't know. I truthfully don't know. Because I feel like once I found it, I was like, this is like I said, this is my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, really hard for me to think of what I wouldn't do. I mean, what I would be doing for work. Um,
What
I
did you think you would be doing before you got introduced to this?
I wanted to write. I wanted to, I don't know what I wanted to write, but I wanted to write something. So I
Mm-hmm.
chose journalism because I was like, okay, this is logical. And then I graduated and I was like, no, this is not where what I was trying to write. And so then I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go the creative writing route. But all that to say, like I haven't written anything separate from like strategizing on how to survive and think of ways to I really really enjoy, it's weird to say, but I enjoy like preparing for like dystopian moments. So I spend a lot of time. That's when I'm like with a pen, I'm like, okay, we're gonna get this, we're gonna get this, we're gonna do, I'm sketching out stuff.
Mm-hmm.
um so yeah, it's really I
Yeah,
I can't, it's hard
right.
to answer that question. I'm sorry.
No, that's an excellent answer. I mean, like you said, you found your purpose, so I appreciate that answer. This answer came in anonymously from Mary Boyd. She said, "How did you come to decide to attend Loyola? And what a wonderful presentation. Thank you." So, how did you decide to go to Loyola?
I went to Loyola on basketball scholarship. So I played at I played at Whitney Young. Uh,
Okay.
and I signed a contract my junior year. So when I was 16, so I kind of I made the decision to come to Loyola because I was like, I mean, yes, of course I'm gonna take this opportunity. I had some rough moments where I wanted to, for basketball reasons, wanted to shift away. But that village is real mighty, and wise. So
That's awesome
I was encouraged to stay.
to stay. Somebody wants to know, can you share some of the feedback that you received from some of the seniors who participated in the backyard garden program?
Oh, um, it's been really empower. Oh man, just such beautiful work. I would have to say some of the most beautiful moments are is a it attracts a lot of seniors, and a lot of them we do a bit of carpentry in the agriculture, so have a little bit of basic carpentry skills. So we have tabletop raised beds that come up about 3 feet in height,
Mm,
so that seniors or folks that have accessibility issues are able to still engage with gardening, because separate from the survival, it's a very therapeutic, and like investing care in something is
mhm,
it's been very helpful for a lot of folks. And so I think what's been most beautiful is when those folks who, it took a lot, a lot of energy for them to get up, for them to come outside, and they just come out there just to sit and talk to us while we're working, and they're sharing
Mm-hmm.
stories about being in Mississippi and seeing their grandmother's garden and how
Mm-hmm.
it's making them feel joy. And a lot of those folks, we started the program in 2021, so we've experienced the loss of quite a few of those seniors, and having, just the joy in their faces for them to be seeing something that I think takes them back to their childhood. I think that's the yeah. I think.
Awesome. That's really, I didn't even think about the accessibility, having to bend down and garden. I love that you guys create that an opportunity for them to get engaged. Um, Two very important questions that I'm going to ask back to back. So, are there avenues in place for us to donate to the organizations and get companies to match?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know, maybe I could chat, type
Yeah.
the websites for all
Yeah.
the organizations in the chat. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I can say them out loud too, though. It's Getting Grown Collective was the organization with my family. Grow Greater Inglewood. This is the organization in Inglewood. And then a Little Village Environmental Justice Organization. So it's gettinggrowncollective.com, growgreater.org, and elvejo.org. So LVEJO.
OVEJO.org.
Oh, I see you're typing it. Thanks, Rock.
Mm-hmm. And get grown. Yeah. There we go. All right. And then explain to folks how they can volunteer.
Can I can see that Terrence's
Mm-hmm.
iPhone is my
Mm-hmm.
mother.
That's your mother.
That is my mom. Just uh how can folks volunteer? Starting in April, we'll be at Libations to the Ancestors Community Garden on 63rd and Morgan on Saturdays from 10 to 12, starting in April through when it gets
What
cold,
times again?
10 to 12. So just come on out.
All right. All right. Within your home garden program, do you do anything to provide recipes or cooking instructions for the food you're helping people to grow?
Oh man, that's a good question. And that's where I love being a part of, like, I have like four different hats on. So the backyard garden program doesn't have that programming just yet, but Getting Grown Collective does through Farm Food Familia. So the mutual aid work that distributed 50,000 meals has evolved to also include cooking classes, um where we share like farm to table and seasonal recipes and an opportunity to cook with the chefs. Some of those are in person, some of them are on Zoom.
Okay. Hopefully we can squeeze in these last two questions here. What is something that you wish you knew as you went along with your career journey?
What is something that I wish I knew? I f- well, I I I think I'm going on that journey now to
Hmm.
get there, to get what I wish I knew, and that's a bit of the architecture that comes along with crafting and shifting landscapes, and doing so in a way that adheres to city ordinances. And so I will be pursuing MLA in landscape architecture to fill that gap, because I feel like that's where I get anxious, working in people's homes and don't want to do anything that's beyond what feels comfortable. So I want to like make it so that more is comfortable.
Yep, awesome. That is smart though too. Then with I didn't even consider the component of being within city or not city ordinance or whatever the rules are that they have. Yeah, I haven't even considered that. Um, Last question here. Do you have any relationship with representatives in the Inglewood community, like Alderman Coleman?
Yep. We're in the 16th ward, so we have a relationship with Stephanie, but not we. I would say Grow Greater Inglewood has more of a strategic relationship than Get It Grown Collective does. I think Stephanie's mom and my mom like knew each other growing up in the neighborhood, so we know each other in that regard, but we don't really do anything explicit with them. Um, but yeah, they were over there when we first started up.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Mhm.
good. So that's the last of our Q&A. So I'll real quick, if you just 1 minute before we do our closing remarks, I want to first of all say thank you so much for joining us today. I know it takes a lot to kind of, to carve an hour or more because we've collaborated several weeks before this, but all the time that you've taken to get prepared for this, I think it provides a very good learning opportunity for people who have not been exposed to urban farming like myself. I've learned a lot today. Before we close out, is there any last statement that you'd like to make before we pivot to Loyola's closing remarks?
Take care of yourselves and take care of your loved ones.
I love that. Okay, so I'm going to hand this over to our VP of Student Relations and Member Relations for our closing remarks, Shakira Richards.
Thank you, Rocky, and thank you, Taryn. Like your words, the passion, the knowledge, the humility, it all came through your story today. So thank you so much for this enlightening conversation, and thank you all for attending this inspiring Blacklight Speaker Series event. We hope that you found Taryn's insights on community engagement and urban farming and urban agriculture, both enlightening as well as motivating. I was definitely moved by your storytelling and just by the experiences and your commitment to the land, the history, the authenticity, and the fidelity to the work that you do. We encourage all of you all to stay connected with the Loyola University Chicago Black Alumni Board and future Blacklight Speaker Series events. These programs showcase our remarkable alumni and how we've carried on Loyola's mission and vision and values in the communities and within our professional lives. And so stay connected, and to keep up with more of our news, we encourage you to follow us on our social media. We currently have a Facebook and a LinkedIn page, so make sure you look out for our social media ads. Visit the Alumni Relations website. We have some details on how you can find out more about our events, as well as if you want to see any past Blacklight Speaker Series that we have recorded. This one will be posted as well. We have this one recorded. So glad, because it was so powerful. But make sure you visit the Loyola Alumni Relations website. You click on, once you go to the general page, you click on communities and interests, and then you'll be able to navigate that page and find more about events, as well as the Black Alumni Board and our events and things that we'll be hosting in the near future. If you're inspired by Taryn's work, I encourage you to volunteer. Check out those websites, donate. You heard Taryn mention we want to encourage paid internships for our young people who are involved. That's really important when it comes to equity, as well as inclusion and creating and removing barriers for our young people to learn more and have more of these experiential opportunities. So I encourage you all to volunteer, donate if you can, connect, network, share her story, or share the story of the great initiatives that Taryn has going on. And lastly, we encourage you to learn more about some of the amazing work that we're doing with the Black Alumni Board, especially with our Mamie Till Mobley Scholarship. It's another avenue for us to continue to create more successful alumni, to have stories to share and impact to create within our communities and professional lives and around the world. The Mamie Till Mobley Scholarship is a scholarship opportunity for graduating high school seniors who are interested in Loyola and have a passion to give back to the Black community. And this scholarship is named after our own alumni, Mamie Till Mobley, who graduated from the Graduate School of Education and is a fellow Rambler. So your continued engagement in our activities, our events, the Blacklight Speaker Series, as well as this scholarship, are vital to our community's growth and the support and the acknowledgement of our alumni who are doing some amazing work. So thank you so much for being a part of the Loyola family, for supporting our work, and we look forward to seeing you all for future events. So thank you so much. Thank you again, Taryn. This was fire. Appreciate you.
Okay, that concludes today's Blacklight Speaker Series. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.